where if you look at retail pharmacy in the U.S., what you typically see is you go up to a counter, you have a cash register or a computer screen in front of you, and the pharmacist takes your script, and and you see all the buzz of activity in the back of the store of pharmacists and pharmacy techs running around and filling scripts. What Walgreens did at a certain point is they created a new store model that hid all of that sausage making that goes on in a pharmacy, sort of built a wall, built a desk out in front of the pharmacy, put the pharmacist out front with a big sign that said the pharmacist is in, with the hope that there would be much deeper integration between the pharmacist and the rest of the store, and that people would ask questions, and that actually the scripts would be filled overnight at a local distribution center and brought to the stores the next day. That whole strategy was an abject failure and completely retreated from. Number one, many pharmacists weren't trained to have that interaction. They were very comfortable with filling bottles and putting 30 pills in a bottle in the back of the store without having a ton of interaction. They weren't used to roaming the stores and weren't trained in that way. And actually the idea of pulling scripts out of the stores and putting them in a distribution center versus having that flow through the stores, I think was found to be the wrong strategy. And what was important from a profitability perspective was getting as many scripts running through those stores as possible. So that whole model that was built to facilitate pharmacists, being able to do more services and to have greater interaction with the public, from a Walgreens perspective, failed, and that whole strategy was stopped, and you see still the traditional model of retail pharmacy looking very much the same. So I'm not hopeful that there's going to continue to be the growth of a service platform that allows pharmacists to get reimbursed for different services aside from just filling scripts.
Okay, great. So I think that's a good summary of the lack of potential for pharmacy retailers in your opinion. Have you got any questions?
Yeah, because I have a question. If this is the correct interpretation and pressure is coming, what role do you see for these entities then on a 5-year view? Do they have a role, or what role would they have in a new environment?
Yeah, so I think they will have a role. I think they're. I don't think retail pharmacy is necessarily going away. I just think it's going to be an industry that's under pressure. So I think I was answering your question more in the context of, will you see continued growth in retail pharmacy from CVS and Walgreens versus, is the retail pharmacy industry dead? I think, you've got in both of those entities, you've got, 85%, 90% of the U.S. population living within 5 or 7 kilometers of one of those two entities. You've still got, they still have very large market shares. 1 in 4 scripts in the U.S. is filled by either Walgreens or CVS. You see small retail pharmacy, independent retail pharmacy continue to, grow at a fairly small clip. You also have what's happening in the U.S. is, this consolidation of the healthcare system is essentially the healthcare system doubling down on itself in many ways. So it makes it less ripe for disruption because all these entities are integrating vertically and will have less incentive to have the system disrupt. So I think that retail pharmacy will continue to play a role. Certainly, there are acute scripts where you walk into your physician's office and, you're sick or you have a cold and he writes a script and you go right to your retail pharmacy chain and you pick it up. So there's that aspect of it. I also think, this is more a little bit tied to whether Amazon can be successful disrupting, but you also have, I think, this difference between, picking up a prescription for diabetes or hepatitis C or HIV or something, and, having something like that delivered to your doorstep, which I think is still a challenge. And then, these retail pharmacy chains have been around for a long time and, have their own competitive nature. So I could also see a world where if they do start continuing to get challenged from, the Amazons of the world, for example, they can turn on a 1-hour delivery service. So, and CVS has already announced their intention to pilot that, where they can say, look, we'll deliver any prescription